Hello there fellow proto-programmers. In the previous video we talked about variables and putting some text on the screen. Let's get a bit closer to building a game. If there's anything you don't get, and anything that I'm not covering or I move too quickly over, do let me know in the comments or a message so that I can make this course better. Okay, so now we've gone over a brief basic demonstration of variables and the use of write line and read line. Let's mix things up a bit and add some more to our little program. First let's clear what we've got here, but make sure that you leave the console.readline and the curly braces. If at any point you see a little red squiggly line under the code that you've typed, it means that you may have typed something not quite right, or accidentally deleted something like a curly brace somewhere. If this does happen, it's not the end of the world, just check back and make sure that everything is exactly the same as it is on the video. There are lots of little things that you need to remember when writing code. You'll notice that there is little semicolons on the end of the lines that you've been typing in. These signal to the computer that you've finished this line and to expect the next one. It's easy to forget, but it'll become second nature as you get more used to it. Remember, if you have any issues, do let me know and I'll adjust the course to make it more accessible. Okay, so let's create a variable to hold our question. And let's write the contents of that variable to the console window. Then we'll create another string to hold the answer to our question. Now that we've got the question and somewhere to store it, let's finish it up with a write line to respond to the answer. Let's put a pleasant greeting in here. Now we'll run the code and see what happens. So we get our familiar little black window, but this time with a question. Now you'll notice there's no space around the name in the response. I've left this in to highlight that your computer does exactly what it's told. Computers, at least at the moment, aren't clever enough to work out what you want without you telling you explicitly what it is, so you need to spell out every last detail for it. In this case, you need to add spaces between the words. To add spaces between the words, you need to add it just before and just after the variable. Let's fix that and try again. Now that looks much neater. Okay, so now we've looked at how we can write text to a screen, we can do some basic maths, and we can take input from the user. This is a very basic level of interaction, but let's introduce a new idea. This is an if statement. What this does is it asks a question, and based on the answer to that question, it'll run different code. Remember the curly braces that surround the code that we run, that I mentioned in the first lesson? This is similar to that, in that it marks out a section that will only run if the question in the brackets is true. The double equal sign in the if statement denotes that it's an equivalence. All this means is that we're testing to see if things on either side of the double equals are the same. Now one might look at that and immediately answer, these two things aren't the same, because one is answer and the other is derp. But the variable answer is an alias for the text we type in, so whatever you typed into the window will take the place of the variable answer when the program runs. This means that if you type derp into the window, then you will be testing to see if derp that you typed is the same as derp in the program. If that's the case, then it will run the code between the following curly braces, otherwise it will ignore the code. Now to make things a little more complicated, I'm going to add an else to pair with the if statement. This will run if the comparison earlier is not equal. So for example, if you type in hello into the console window, then the program will compare hello and derp. It will discover these are not the same text. This means that it will skip the code in the curly braces immediately under the if and jump to the block below under the else. Now this probably all sounds rather abstract and may well not make much sense. This is fine. Hopefully the following demonstration will illustrate how the humble if statement works. Let's put in different messages for different answers typed in by your users. Okay, we're ready to run our test code. You'll notice that if I type in not derp here, then it gives me the "it's nice to meet you" response, because not derp is, as I'm sure you're not surprised, not derp. Now if I run it again and type in derp, you'll notice that it recognizes me as its creator. One thing to note here is that we've said earlier the computer does exactly what you tell it, and it doesn't use common sense to work out what you intended. So if you type derp with a lowercase letter, it won't recognize it because it isn't exactly the same. So now we know about variable inputting and outputting text, and our latest acquisition, the if statement, I think we're finally ready to make a very basic game which we'll start in the next video.